For having me tonight. I wanted to come to maybe give as much of an update as I can on the county's efforts towards addressing homelessness and also noting that it's not just a county directive. I will say this takes the entire community, our community partners, our area municipalities, and really organizations like yourself to assist with everything, addressing homelessness, housing, all of those type of initiatives. So maybe to go back a little bit, in March of this year, County Council adopted a homelessness response strategy, and that was a strategy that was developed over a year and a half with input from a lot of our community partners working in the space, as well as those with lived experience, to really look more at the system, where the gaps are, where there's redundancies, where people are working in silos, to really hone in on what do we actually have to do to start addressing homelessness in more of a strategic manner. So as a result of all that hard work, we came forward to council in March of this year, and council adopted the homelessness response strategy, which includes 49 actions specifically, to address homelessness. It's not just county actions. It does, take that group effort into account, especially with everything that we did hear from the community partners through that development of the strategy. So it will take a collective effort. Now, as part of those 49 actions, some of the ones, maybe one in particular is maybe of most interest to this group and maybe the community, and that was the acquisition of a property for a homelessness support center. I will say, in doing that work, a committee of council has been developed to assist in finding a location for that site. I can't share very much with regards to that, but I will say that work is still underway to find that appropriate location. Really, that behind that directive was really to find something, a stable location, so current emergency shelter services were not provided out of 3 separate locations as they are currently. So I will say, really the focus of that is to have one central location. Oh, my podium's moving a little bit here. One central location where we can really provide the supports that those who are experiencing homelessness can access without having to relocate, at different times of the day. So the services are currently being provided. Tim's team, there in the back, Operation Sharing, provides our emergency shelter services in Woodstock. So we do have the support services available. We do have the emergency overnight shelter. This is just a way to bring everything together and really have that stability in the system. The other side to that, which I think is also important to clarify and maybe provide a little bit of direction on, is the Heart Hub Wellness Center that's also being worked on by the Woodstock Hospital in collaboration with OHT. Because while it's not the homelessness support center, it is still connected to the system. It's just a different part of the system. So in explaining that, I think maybe the best way to explain it is we have a homelessness support center that would then feed into the wellness center, where people who are experiencing concerns with mental health and addictions would be able to receive treatment. That wellness center would not only assist those who are experiencing homelessness, it would also serve the community, which I think is a very important thing to note. From that, there would then be the ability, specific to those who are experiencing homelessness, to then transition to supportive housing on the other side of that. So the entire picture is really pulling together that whole system of care so that people are actually able to transition out of homelessness. And that was really that piece that was missing for people to actually transition out. Because no matter how much support you provide, if you're not providing the proper support, unfortunately, some individuals, aren't going to be able to transition out as we'd like to see. Again, I think it's also important to note that some individuals do not want to transition out of homelessness, and that's also just a key thing that I like to say when I speak to the community, that it has to be the right fit for the individual. But this whole strategy that we have in combination with the Wellness Center is bringing together that whole system of care. Now, the Heart Hub is the other part of the Wellness Center, and the Heart Hub is more the system, the system of support that would wrap around the individuals. The Heart Hub is not a physical location. I think that's very important to know. The physical location is the Wellness Center. So when you look at it, and if I maybe can explain a client's journey who's experiencing homelessness, the whole system of care would be entering the homelessness support center to get the supports if you're experiencing homelessness. If willing, you would then enter the wellness center. Then you would go into supportive housing. That whole journey is still supported by the Heart Hub system. So those partners who are available to provide supports. So it's almost like you have that system of care and then you have the Heart Hub that's wrapping around it. And I think that's probably the best way to explain that proposed, full system. This is not something that happens overnight. I think that's very important to know, but this is, what we're striving towards. That's what our county council has approved for us to work on as staff to move forward with our community partners. And again, not alone as the county. We're all working together to make sure we can achieve these goals, but that's the ultimate system that we're looking to build. Any questions before I continue on?
Let's go back to the Heart Hub. Because we understood the Heart Hub have a location, and now you're saying the Heart Hub is like overseeing this umbrella type thing?
The Heart Hub is a system of care. So the Heart Hub is all the community partners who already provide the supports to those experiencing homelessness. That's the Heart Hub. So it's the system. The Wellness Center, which is location over at Graham Street, which I think everybody's heard of, is the actual addictions mental health treatment center.
So that's what's run by the hospital, not the Heart Hub then?
Yes. I should say the Heart Hub in a way is, I guess to be simple, the Heart Hub is the community partner support. I think that's the best way to frame it.
That's all of us.
That's all of us.
A little slower and a little louder would be.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to bring a microphone.
It's all good. And I don't have too much more to add, but I think it's just the more strategic approach. Again, the 49 actions that we've been tasked with will involve, some things that are more housing related, bumping up our rent supplements. We still have a focus of building units, which is more on the other side of the housing continuum. There's many other things, but a lot of it does focus on working with our community partners to make all of this happen. So you will see some things come out in the future. We will be looking to strike more of a community group or community partner group to actually focus on these 49 actions more directly. That will be, individuals or community groups that are actually already supporting the system. They're already in the system so that we can actually make some strides towards some of these things. Unfortunately, that bigger piece is that homelessness support center, which I know is probably the top of the list of those 49 actions. So we are working on that to work in tandem with the wellness center and Heart Hub system. And I can leave it open for questions. I thought there would be some, so I'll leave it more up to the crowd.
Tom, you go ahead.
Okay, 49 actions, so the center is one. Are there 48 more?
There's 48 more. I can provide a copy of the report, but I'm not going to read through the 48.
The higher priority ones are?
Higher priority is the homelessness support center, rent supplement program.
The which?
Rent supplement program.
Rent.
Funding our community partners in a way that makes sense to, transition people out of homelessness. And then there's a number of other things, striking that focus group with the community partners to make sure we can start working through these 49 actions, as well as some improvements on more of the system side of things, and just maybe a quick term. So all of our community partners, well, I should say, the majority of them who are working to transition people out of homelessness are working in a coordinated access system. That's what it's called. So essentially, if someone wants to be identified as being, experiencing homelessness, they are put on a by name list. And the by name list is, what all the community partners are connected to assist those individuals on the by name list. So there are some things that have to do with that in terms of, better coordination, making sure we're all working in the same direction.
So, having said that, what do you do with those homeless that are not controllable? That are, you can't talk to them, they are the ones that have real issues and can't communicate. Well, where do they fit in the system? How do you handle all that? Because having worked in the Oxford Regional Center, I've dealt with those type of people. And so they can be destructive. So you put them into a nice little apartment and suddenly they break the pipes and they turn on the water, and what do you do with those kind of people?
So again, that goes to the system of supports. You typically cannot just house individuals. They need the supports. The focus is wrapping around, people who are experiencing homelessness and offering those supports.
And how do they get the support?
The supports are available by all the community partners who are participating in coordinated access. So that current system exists. I think, again, it goes back to my point of some individuals do not want help. And I think that's very important to note, because we have a system of supports available. We have outreach staff, we have Tim's team, we have bylaw, we have, individuals from the hospital, we have individuals from CMHA. We have a lot of community support agencies that are there to provide support. It's just you have to be willing to accept it. And that's with anybody. It doesn't matter if you're experiencing homelessness. It doesn't matter, if you're just an individual who's looking for supports. You have to be willing to accept them as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So is there any part of this that you're working on that would bring all these silos together under one roof so that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing?
So again, that's the focus of the Homelessness Support Center, to bring the supports under one roof. Again, that's a bigger picture thing that we still have to acquire the property to do so, if that's what it looks like in the end. So without, there's no further details to share other than that's what we've, had approved by council to move forward with. So that's what staff is proceeding with.
So all of us who are feeding on different days of the week presumably would work from one center eventually?
It wouldn't so much be food insecurity, it would really be the support services for those experiencing homelessness. So it's a bit of two different side of things. So at this time, we don't know fully what the center would look like, but we are focusing on the actual support side of things for these individuals.
Out of those 49, I guess 48, is there any, what about like rent? Is there ever any talk of rent coming down to help these people pay rent? Like an average person, even on ODSP, can't live on their own because rent is like $2,100 a month and they only get 12, 14. Like that's not even enough to cover rent.
So that's the rent supplement program, and
So
that
that's-
already exists.
Okay.
Rent supplement really bridges what somebody can afford to what a landlord, reasonably charges for a unit. So that already exists. It just needs to be in a more formal capacity because of the need. There needs to be, a better process for allocating those funds, but rent supplement is certainly there to fill that gap.
Good to know.
And how do you access that?
You'd have to call our office, and it would have to be an eligible individual, but we can certainly walk you through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my concerns is, I'm aware of the seniors that, in group crisis and how many people they help. And, I wasn't aware until I started being a bit involved that there are so many vulnerable seniors who, their income just isn't going to match what is needed. And so, do you think many of them are aware of the rent supplements, or is there a cap on it? I would like to be able to help Jana let people know if there is a possibility, because there is, I think, way more than what I ever realized.
Yeah, so there is a cap on all our programs. I just want to make everybody aware. So you have to look at it as a full housing continuum. So we have homelessness on this side all the way to, market housing. So in between, a little bit more to the market housing, is affordable housing. And that's a bit of a different, piece of the portfolio, but that's also building units at an affordable rate. So it really depends on the individual in terms of what program we're able to provide. If they can't qualify for a rent supplement, there might be some other avenues that we can certainly look into. Again, unfortunately, with anything, there's only so many resources. And we do our best to help everybody, who comes through the door. But unfortunately, because of the economy that we're currently in, there's people who have never struggled, who are now struggling, who would never come to a food bank, for instance. So I think there's a bit of a missing middle there, that we haven't experienced in the past, that unfortunately those individuals are getting missed, but the system hasn't been set up for that. So I think that's also important to note, but in those kind of cases, I mean, a call to our office, there's many programs, and if somebody was eligible for one of those programs, we would certainly walk you through that.
When you say your office, what office is that? Just called the county, or is it a particular HR office?
Human Services.
Human Services, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there someone?
I get
Go
the
ahead.
tallest hand.
I want to expand a little bit on what Doug asked a question, because that's kind of like related a little bit to our club. So our club is doing the Rotary Community Table every Saturday, and then we were in the hope that when the homeless center come by, would be some kind of like commercial kitchen inside it. And we were hoping that they say, okay, if we have somebody for Monday, we don't need to adventure toward Monday, and if we have somebody for Tuesday, and then fill up the gaps on 7 days a week. Is this something that might be in the scope of the vision that you have in the county, or?
I'll say the focus is on support services. There's not too much more I can say beyond that, unfortunately. We're not quite at that point. And I wouldn't want to give anybody false information. We're not quite there in terms of the planning.
But I would suggest that feeding somebody who's hungry is a support service.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
And we just still do fund many of the agencies, just like yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Would it be like right now not too late to think about that? Like if you are taking some kind of questioning or some kind of feeling or vibes from the community, and we are bringing this one forward to your attention, would it be like maybe the time now to talk about it and
I think it might be a smaller conversation offside, if you don't mind. I think that's maybe a bit of a different conversation in terms of food insecurity, because it's certainly something that we fund, but it's not completely within the umbrella, I will say. So we can certainly have that conversation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
So, just to get a sense of the scope of homelessness in this community, how is it tracked? And do you have an approximate number of the number of homeless in the county?
So again, leading back to that by name list, that's the list of individuals that want to be identified as being homeless. That number is just over 160, and that's a number that we share. That's been, on our council reports. So we update that number monthly. Obviously, it's hard to get a very definitive number because people are always changing their habits. But currently, it's just over 160. That's the entire county.
These are actual homeless people, not less fortunate people.
These are people who are experiencing homelessness and have been identified as such.
Rebecca, what do you think Rotary could do to help you move this forward and have more impact? I think we all realize that the feeding program that any of us do any day of the week is kind of a postage stamp stopgap measure. But, Rotary would like to have more impact and make a difference in people's lives. What could we do to help you move this along?
I think at this point, I will be honest, there is still some work to get these 49 actions up and running, and I think as we go through those 49 actions, we'll be bringing in community partners specific to that action. So certainly if food security is one of those actions, it would be something we'd be looking at with your group. I think it's still a little bit too soon to make any comments on in terms of the involvement on the Homelessness Support Center. We're just kind of getting started on those type of things, so there's not too much more that I can share, but we certainly look for participation from everybody. So I think when we get a little bit further along, I can certainly come back and we can maybe discuss more specifics, if that works for Rotary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's room for everybody, I will say. No matter how much support you provide, how many community partners are involved, I mean, we still have people less fortunate who, aren't able to feed themselves, aren't able to get food, aren't able to be housed. So it's a full spectrum, and we certainly want Rotary to still be involved in that for sure.
Sorry, I understand there's also a change in demographics of homeless people, and maybe not the ones that identify, but more, I've heard men over 50, who are unable to afford housing. Is that something that you're tracking, or?
It is something we track. It wouldn't be something that I'm tracking on a daily basis, so I'd have to get back to you with those stats for sure. But all of that is tracked. We have details down to, maybe the bigger contributing factors to somebody, experiencing homelessness. Again, a lot of that information is confidential, so it's hard to provide some specifics for you, but I mean, there's certainly some trends, and I don't think, if I said some of them, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to this room, for sure. I think you're still trying to raise your hand, so I'll give you the floor.
I just don't know how much you can say, but
Yeah.
if the race to the homelessness support center was like a 100-meter dash, how close to the finish line are we?
I can't comment, unfortunately. I'd like to, but we're not quite there yet.
Fair.
Yeah. Did I speak loud enough for you? Okay, good.
Anything,
Anything else?
any more questions?
Just keep pushing.
I can always come back to you. I think it's, this is where we're starting. We can do something else down the line when I have a bit more, some more information to share, but unfortunately, this is where I'm at currently. We're just getting this stuff off the ground. So, and I should say, all this work's been happening. It's not that, we have a strategy in March and then all of a sudden we're doing all this good work. This is all happening already. It's just bringing people together in a bit more of a strategic way to really hone in on those things that might make the biggest impact. So,
What's the biggest challenge of your job then, at this point?
I don't know if I can answer that. I don't think I can, honestly. I think there's many needs, and we're in a very challenging time where inflation is very high, everything is very expensive, we don't have enough housing supply, and unfortunately we won't have enough resources on the one side of the continuum to help those individuals who used to be able to afford an apartment who no longer can. So we're in a very challenging time where there's a lot of, individuals, like I said before, have never had these challenges. And they're falling through the cracks because we've never had to address it before. So I think a bit of that missing, piece is what we struggle with too, because the more people who need help, the less money there is.
One last point. I think you're aware that we spent a couple of years in this club trying to develop the tiny homes housing project, and
Yes.
every time we turned around there was another wall in front of us. But we have 2 small tiny homes sitting that we've never really made good use of. We did have a request to send them to another county, and I was one who said, why should we send them to another county when the residents of Oxford donated to this club to fund them? So if you had a need for a couple tiny homes, we've got 2 that are available, and we would be so pleased if they could be put to use somehow, somewhere.
Okay. I'm very aware. I will say, I'm a land use planner by trade, so development is a little bit in my blood. So, I mean, if there's certainly a use, we can, and I look forward to it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Okay.
Rebecca,
Thank
for
you.
giving us time. I know you're very busy, but we would like to thank you for coming tonight and speaking to us. If you have any more questions, so if there's more questions next time, you can reach out to Rebecca. So you can reach out through the HR. And we're just glad to hear that we've got something going on to help these people in need. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. And sorry, I messed